My name is Taylor Neubauer and I will be going over buried utilities. So the first thing I want to talk about is preparing to dig. In Wisconsin, it can take up to 72 hours to get markings. And then in Minnesota, it can take up to 48 hours to get markings. This is important because say if you want to dig on a Thursday or Friday, you're going to want to call at least a few days in advance to properly have enough time to get your markings. A big thing to have is a locate ticket. That just proves you had someone come out and verify where everything was. Have all your contact information of the utility companies. You need this in case there's an emergency. You want to, have their info in case they need to shut off the utilities in a timely manner. And then one of the biggest things you can do before you dig is have an emergency plan. In case you do have an emergency, you want to have a plan in place to make sure everyone's safe at the end of the day. Next, I'll go over the color codes for utility markings. So white is the proposed excavation, pink are survey markings, red is electrical, yellow is gas, oil, steam, or propane, orange is communication lines, blue is water, green is sewer, purple is reclaimed water or irrigation. A helpful tip, just because all colors are on the ground doesn't mean all utilities are marked, so always dig with caution. And another tip is if utilities are marked with flags, make sure to read what's on the flag. Those often provide a lot more information than just plain markings on the ground. A few standby requirements. So if a gas line is over 67 psi, you need to have the proper stuff on standby. If the pipe is 8 inches in diameter or bigger, and then if there's a wall-to-wall hard surface, you need to have the proper people and or equipment on standby in case something happens. And then I'll go over some requirements for excavation of buried utilities. So in Minnesota and North Dakota, you have 24 inches on either side of the marks to dig. In South Dakota and Wisconsin, it's 18 inches on either side of the marks. And then in Michigan, it is also 18 inches, but you also need a 48-inch caution zone around your excavation. Next is digging by hand. So I guess I'll just go over a few tips you can do. Always dig at an angle. This will avoid a direct blow to a utility if you happen to go too deep with the shovel or whatever it is you may be using. Use a prying motion to remove hard dirt. Don't jab at it. Jabbing can result in you slipping off a rock or something and puncturing or cutting the utility. You don't want to do that. And then the next thing is do not probe. So probing is usually sticking like a long metal wire in the ground and feeling for any hard surface. Obviously, you don't want to do this because you could puncture the utility and you don't want to do that. Don't use pointed tools such as a pickaxe or regular axe. This can be more likely to puncture a line or utility. And then if you're digging for electrical lines or around electrical lines, use insulated tools. This will hopefully prevent a shock in case you come in contact with a electrical line. Next is digging with a backhoe or heavy equipment. So always use a spotter. Often the guy in the cab can't always see what he's digging, so have a person down directing him where to put his bucket and where to scoop dirt and all that. Exposing the entire circumference of pipes or utilities. You need to do this so you can inspect all the way around, make sure there's no cracks or holes in whatever it is you may be digging up. Do not scrape across pipes. Scraping across pipes could you could accidentally hook on a connection point and pull everything apart underground or further underground. And then another thing is always support your exposed utilities. Yeah. And then going along with what I just said is the people who are excavating are responsible for supporting the utility. So one company can't be the people that dig it up and you have someone else you support it. It's whoever digs it up has to support it. So if damage occurs, you need to report all damage, even if it's a nick or small cut down the road that can result in bigger and more catastrophic abrasions or cuts. Do not attempt to operate valves. You can make things even worse. So if there's a leak or if there's damage in the pipe, just let the professionals come and do it. That's their job. Do not move or do not move a valve or test box. Tampering with that could just result in more customers or people being affected by it than what you originally thought. Do not assume unmarked lines are abandoned. So if the line is unmarked, obviously treat it as if it was live, just in case. If you're not sure where everything is, have a locator come and just remark everything so you don't accidentally come in contact with the line. And then the next thing is leaking natural gas or flammable liquid. So if this happens, warn everyone in the area to leave, make sure they're in a safe place. Turn off all equipment or ignition sources. Do not operate valves or flow of gas. Leave the excavation open. Don't try to cover it up. If you cover it up, it's still going to be leaking underground. Stay away from the affected area. So obviously, try to remove yourself from harm's way. And then the last biggest thing is call 911. By law, you have to call 911 if you have a leak. And then I'll go over some characteristics of natural gas. So natural gas is odorless and tasteless. It's non-toxic. It's lighter than air, so it will float. And then there's a chemical added to make it smell because it is tasteless and odorless. And then I'll go over propane. It's almost odorless. It's also non-toxic. It's heavier than air, so it's going to sit on the ground rather than floating away. And then a chemical is also added to that to make it smell, so you are aware that there is a leak of it. Then the last thing is I have 3 emergency contacts. So for a gas leak, you need to call 1-800-895-2999. For an electrical outage, it's 1-800-895-1999. And so obviously you want to put those, in your phone. Everyone has smartphones these days. Have those ready to go in case there's ever a leak. And then the last biggest one is 911. 911 will not be able to shut off your leaking utility, but by law it is required that you call them if there is a leak. Thank you.